Hi, my little babies. Welcome back to another episode of What the Smut. Hello, I'm back. Did you miss me? I missed you. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing a book. I know. Stop. Stop. I know what you're thinking. Okay, you're thinking, bitch, where have you been? Here's what happened, right? So I started writing a book last year, and in the process of writing that book, I came to the realization that I could not read anything else because it was a combination of things. One, I didn't want to subconsciously infer anything from a plot I had read into what I was writing. It was like a deep-rooted fear that I would do that. And then secondly, I literally had no motivation to want to read or listen to anything. I have copious amounts of books on my TBR. I have copious amounts of audiobooks that I have continued to buy with the intention of listening to them at some point that I just have not listened to. Because if it's an author I like, or it's part of a series that I was reading before, I've continued to buy those books. Why? I don't know. Because I don't need money? I do need money. But that's not why. So I don't know. But I had no... You know when you're when you have so many things, it's just... Fucker, don't even start with me. It's just overwhelming when you have so much in front of you that you're just like, I don't know if I can do this. I can't choose anything. It was like that. And it's like, okay, that plot sounds really good. But then there was always something keeping me from actually going, okay, play. Or from picking up a book. I haven't fucking picked up a book, an actual physical book, in years. I haven't picked up my Kindle in literally over a year. If it's not an audio, it's not going in here. And it's been that way for the longest. And I've just accepted that about myself. That I just can't. I just don't have time. But there's so many books I want to read. There's so many books I want to read by authors that haven't been adapted into audio, and it makes me seriously upset because these authors are some amazing authors that these books I know will be really good. They're not in audio, and I can't get them. And I can't physically read them because I don't have the time or brain power. It's a struggle. Anyway, I finally broke after about, I want to say 8 months. Could have been longer than that. 8 months, I broke my dry spell. And I listened to an audiobook to completion. Not started one, to completion. Okay? And I actually really liked it. And I think that is what pushed me to finish, because I was into it. I was really enjoying it. And in the beginning, I did have to make a very conscious effort when I got in my car or while I was working to listen to the audiobook instead of listening to music, or watching, or in this case, half listening to a podcast or a movie on Netflix or something, you know? In the beginning, I did have to make an actual conscious effort to put the book on. But as I got more into it, obviously I wanted to get back into it when I had to take a break, right? So I think that is what pushed me into finishing. So here we are. I have finished an audiobook, and I'm proud of myself because 8 months 8 months for a person who's supposed to be, their whole channel revolves around book reviews? I'm sure longtime watchers of my channel did not miss that. That's the fucking air freshener. So anyway, 6 minutes in. Typical. 6 minutes in, and I haven't even told you what we're talking about today. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing this book. What just fell out? Oh, it's a bookmark. Didn't even know that was in there. We're going to be reviewing this book. This is Phantom by author Greer Rivers, and it is the first book in her Tattered Curtain series. And let me just say, okay, I have seen many authors do like, oh, the Hades and Persephone retelling, or like the Greek mythology retellings, or even like with Emily McIntyre's Never After series, right? Like you have like fairy tale retellings, and you see that all the time, right? You see it all the time. Everybody has their own take on it. Everybody puts some kind of original spin on it, and it makes it interesting to readers, right? This is different. She's taking not fairy tales, but plays like Phantom of the Opera or Romeo and Juliet, or I think at one point she mentions like Orpheus and somebody, I can't remember the other person's name, but like famous plays, and she's adapting them into books. And it's so original. I found it so refreshing. And that also probably lended to the mystique of like why I liked it. But obviously this is a modern day retelling of the Phantom of the Opera. If you've never seen the movie The Phantom of the Opera, you need to go watch it. Gerard Butler? Say less. But obviously, it's an amazing play. It's an amazing movie. And this is an amazing book. I will say, she is a really good writer. And like, I'm not trying to gas her up, but the way she talks, obviously not talks, but like writes. The way she writes is so eloquent. And there were many times, and from me reading romance novels since the age of like 16, I'm going to be 40 this year. 40. Let that sink in. 40. From reading romance novels from 16 to 40, my vocabulary is pretty extensive. I don't use like uppity words in everyday life, but I recognize many a word, okay? That sounded intelligent. But there were several words she used in this book that I had to go look up because I was like, I don't know what that means. And that doesn't happen very often. Usually I'll hear the word and I'd be like, I don't use that in everyday conversation, but in a book it fits. And I know what it means because I've heard it in other books. And this wasn't the case. Like, I heard several words that I was like, I don't know what that means. Am I stupid? Don't answer that. The answer is yes, but I'm not asking her. I'm not asking you. I'm not stupid, okay? I am stupid. But yeah, anyway. So, I'm going to give you the deets for the book in a second. But first, can we just admire this cover? All of the books in this series, which currently there are 3 books in this series that are already out, they all look like this. They are all like there's just something about them. They're so aesthetically pleasing to me. And I don't know if it's this bit here in combination with like the font that she chose. I don't know if it's like, it's just such an amalgamation of like, I don't know. I can't explain. It speaks for itself. the mask, it's stunning. Look at the spine. Stunning, okay? Now, I'm gonna give you guys the deets, and then we'll read the blurb, and then we'll break it down based on my notes, because I finally went back and picked up my ring light is like, I finally went back and picked up my reading journal, and wrote in it for the first time in 8 months, but I'm back on my ish. That's it. I'm here. Okay? So, now, the details for the book. This book and all the books in this series are currently free to read with KU. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can download these books for free. Do it. Do it. If you want this paperback that I'm currently holding in my hands, it's 5.5 by 8.5 inches. It's a chunky little book, but it's a good size book. And it is $15.99 for the paperback. Okay? The paperback, this one, according to Amazon, and you know I'm gonna freaking do, it's been a long time, but I'm still gonna do it. According to Amazon, this book is 406 pages. According to Candace, this book is 384 pages. Now, I want to explain something really quick. Having published my own book and being on like the other side of the wall that separates reader from writer, I now have a better understanding as to why the page count on Amazon does not match the page count here. Because when you format a book, you're adding in, if your book has like chapter heading images, you're adding in the trigger warning list, you're adding in if you have a Spotify playlist, you're adding in the author note, you're adding in the foreword. All of these things factor into the page number that Amazon records in your final like PDF file. However, in the book, they only count from page 1 as in chapter 1, the first page of the actual story, and then the last page of the actual story, right? And that's where you get the inconsistency in page count. So, am I gonna stop yelling about this? Probably, because I don't have any justification for being angry anymore. Because I've figured out why they do what they do, okay? I have found the rhyme, or what is it? The reason behind the rhyme? The rhyme behind the reason? Anyway, you know what I mean. So 406 pages for the book itself. 383 pages? 384 pages? 384 pages for the actual story. Now, couple things that I liked about this book, which, no, okay, stop. There's an order of things. Keep your order. If you want this book in hardcover, you can get it for the price of $28.99. Do I think that's a little bit pricey? Yes. I think if you were going to Barnes & Noble or some other major like retailer, like a devoted bookstore, like an actual bookstore, and you were buying a hardcover like with this cover, with a dust jacket and all that jazz, I could see them trying to charge $25 to $30 for that, right? On Amazon, this image gets printed directly onto the hardcover, no dust jacket. So I would expect to see a price that's closer to like $22, $23. $28.99 seems a little pricey to me. That's just my opinion. Don't come for me. Now, this book is also available in audio. Obviously, like I said before, I did the audio. The audio is narrated by Michael Pierce and Zara Eden. Michael Pierce, I have no issue with. Zara Eden, I had some gripes. Now, like I said, this is a Phantom of the Opera retelling. I will read you guys the blurb, and then we can break it down a little bit. So the blurb for this one says, a dark, modern romantic retelling of the musical classic Phantom of the Opera. But this time, the man behind the mask won't stop until she is his. She is my muse, and I am her demon of music. A year ago, I witnessed sweet Scarlet Day's dark side. She's been my obsession ever since. I was content with being her secret, content with protecting her from afar, until an enemy from my past sets his sights on her. Our families have a deep history of hatred, and Scarlet is caught in the middle. Meanwhile, her mind is playing tricks on her. When a panic attack goes horribly wrong, I emerge from the shadows to save her. Now that she's mine, I can't let her go. I've mastered the darkness. She tempts me with her light. But when my mask is gone, will she fear the monster underneath? Okay. Now, things I liked about this book. Number one, the male narrator was decent. I did like him. He was cool. Number two, there is a lot of mental health representation in this book. The main female character, Scarlet, is type 1 bipolar. She has panic attacks. She has manic episodes. And from what I've read, and that was post finishing the book, like after I finished the book, I thought to myself while reading it, I was like, well, it sounds like she's put a lot, Greer Rivers, it sounds like she's put a lot of research into this character and like her illness or disorder, should I say. And so I thought that was great because I love when authors put like an element of realism into their books. I didn't know until after the fact that Greer Rivers herself is type 1 bipolar and that she has like bouts of depression and anxiety and things like that. So it made it that much more endearing because she was speaking from a place of experience, which I really appreciate. So I loved that. And the way she handles a lot of the, like the main female character's episodes that she goes through, the way she handled explaining them was very straightforward and very clear to someone, for example, like me, who has no idea. I know nothing about bipolar disorder. I do know about depression. I do know about panic attacks because I suffer from those, or like anxiety, but I know nothing about bipolar disorder. So I thought the representation of having a bipolar main female character was amazing. I loved that. Okay. Now, what I didn't care for, the female narrator of the book. I won't say her entire voice annoyed me. It took a while to get used to. I will say that. But once I got used to it, most of her narration was fine. There were certain words, and I know that when you're a narrator, you have to enunciate really well, and there has to be like clear definition between words. And I get that. Sometimes I feel like the flow of the book is lost in trying to remain as like separated as possible, that it almost sounds drony. And I hate that. So sometimes I would rather you speak quickly, but with inflection, than to speak clearly, but sound drony. Does that make sense? It also irritated me, and this is just a personal thing, because I know not everyone will have a problem with this, but the way that she pronounced words that have U in them, the letter U, like, obviously, there were many, many, many times in the book where the word skull came up. And I say it just like that, skull. She would say skull, and every time she did it, it made my eye twitch. It made my brain hiccup a little bit. And there were a couple of other words that were very similar to that, where she would add an O sound instead of a U. I don't know if that was just like her accent, or like just her trying to like enunciate the word to make it sound, you know, but my brain like hiccuped every time she would say that. And the main male character wears obviously the half white mask, but in this case she refers to it as his skull mask. So every time she would say, like, refer to his mask, she would say skull. And I was just like, girl, please stop. But other than that, I had really no complaints with the book. Now, the two main characters for this book. Scarlet is the main female character. The main male character, and this is where the O came into place again. And like, I get it in this case because it is an O, but it was like, I don't really know what the difference is between like a long O and like a short O. Does that mean, what is that? Am I even making sense? So the main male character's full name is Solomon, okay? Everybody calls him Saul, but she pronounced it soul, and I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Is his name supposed to be Soul, or is it supposed to be Saul? Greer, please help me out, because I don't know. But this is what I wrote, so we're gonna stick with our process. And no, you know what? We're not going to stick with the process, okay? We're going to regress, because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, right? Okay. So we're going to regress back to our old method, where I reference my notes, but I'm not going to read them, because honestly, with this book, I just wrote down what was happening. I didn't add in little funny tidbits or anything, so it would be boring as fuck for me to read it to you. So let's just talk about the deets of the characters, right? So Scarlet, first of all, she's a virgin. So buckle up, buttercup. Secondly, like I said, she's diagnosed bipolar. She is an opera singer, or like it's like musical theater, and she attends Bordeaux Academy, which is like a very prestigious, like arts, like school for the arts or school for theater, that's set in New Orleans. I don't know if all 3 books are set in New Orleans, but I know that this one was. So this one is set in New Orleans. And she has no parents to speak of. Her mom ran off. I want to say her bipolar disorder was hereditary through her mother's genes. And her mom didn't really know how to take care of herself, much less a child who was also bipolar or showed symptoms of being bipolar, and so she ditched. So she was raised by her single dad, who was a jazz musician. And her father was murdered when she was, I don't remember what age, but it was like a couple of years before, or like a year or two before the starting of the book, where the present day, right? She was with him when he was murdered. He was gunned down in an alley. The attacker was never found. Like his murderer was never found by police, never apprehended. So the case to date remains unsolved. Okay. She has a best friend who's in theater named Jaime. That's the way it was pronounced in the audiobook. I don't know if that is correct or not, but that's the way it was pronounced. And he's a gay best friend. Okay. So the main male character, his name is Saul. He has a twin brother named Ben. They are the heirs to the Bordeaux family heirs. They run the city. Okay, so they used to run all of New Orleans. They've been locked in a bitter feud with another family. What the fuck is his name? The Chatelains. Okay, so they were rival families fighting over territory. The Chatelain crew was ran by the eldest brother named Laurent. When Saul was 15, he was kidnapped by Laurent. Ben and Saul were essentially orphaned. Their father was murdered as well by Laurent, the Chatelain, the head of the Chatelain clan or crew or whatever. Their mother had a nervous breakdown and had to be psychiatrically institutionalized after what happened to her husband. So Ben and Saul took over the running of the family business, which is essentially, imagine two street gangs, right? And they're fighting for dominance within the city. So at 15, right after his dad's murder and his mother going crazy, Saul is kidnapped by Laurent, the Chatelain guy, and systematically tortured for God knows how long. He scooped out one of his eyes. They burned him. They tore off strips of flesh to send to his brother Ben as proof of life. And they basically fucked up the whole right side of his body, including his face. Hence the half mask. Okay. He managed to escape, and in doing so, he killed Laurent. The youngest Chatelain, Rand, fled the city. He went to New York because in the beginning it didn't seem like he wanted any part of this family feud. So the Bordeaux took over the running of all of New Orleans. Now, present day, Rand has come back with, unbeknownst to the Bordeaux, some mysterious New York connections who are wanting to help him retake the city. Of course, he doesn't tell them this because prior to Laurent's death, Ben signed a truce with Laurent to get Saul back. And that truce was a very clear-cut set of rules that both sides had to follow. They gave the Chatelains a chunk of the city. You stay on your side, we'll stay on our side. You give me back my brother. That's it. We're calling a truce. So any aggression or overstepping on either part would result in consequences, right? So Rand has now returned to the city, and he's doing so under the guise of wanting to build a hotel in an area that is Bordeaux territory. Obviously, Saul and Ben shut him down. No go. It's not happening. He pretends like, okay, that's fine. I'm over it. It's fine. I'll just go back to my side and we'll be good. Then he finds out that Saul has like a little bit of an obsession with this opera singer. Lo and behold, the opera singer is a girl he used to know, that Rand used to know when he was younger, because her father played jazz in a bunch of bands and worked for Rand's father. So she has chatelaine ties. And in doing so, that technically makes her, even though she's not claimed, that makes her a chatelaine. And she's off limits to the Bordeaux. Saul's not having any of that. He's like, she may not be under our protection yet, but she's mine. Give me more. I need all of the she's mine. Okay. So Rand goes out of his way, honestly, to, hi, oh my God, my childhood friend. Like, do you remember when you used to crush on me when you were a little girl? Let's go out on a date. Let's do this and that. She's grown up. She did used to crush on him when she was younger. Now she realizes, after spending literally 2.5 seconds with this man, that he's a complete skeeve and pushy as all fuck. Okay. So she basically essentially like shuts him down. Like, this is not happening. I don't like you like that. Like, let's be friends. We're going to be friends, right? And the first thing he does is say, are you okay? Why are you upset? Is it your disorder? Are you having an episode? Which of course then just makes her angry. But it also makes her question herself. And she does that through the majority of the book, because she doesn't know if what she's experiencing is a figment of her disease or if it's actually happening. So since she started at the Bordeaux Academy, she's been receiving letters. It started out as her hearing through the vent in her room, her like dorm room. It started as her hearing like music, like piano music. And she would hear it and she would make up lyrics, or she would start singing along with the music and make up lyrics to go with the song. And that captivated Saul, because Saul, unbeknownst to everyone, lives beneath the opera house. He lives in a renovated apartment below ground and travels the city to protect his family's stuff. He travels the city via tunnels that his grandfather built during Prohibition. So that's how he gets around. All of the men that work for their family are called shadows, and they all wear the same mask that he does. So no one knows who anybody else is. So it's like a keep yourself isolated from people and they can't hurt you kind of thing, right? Or they can't betray you. So she hears the music. She starts singing along to the music. Next thing she knows, she starts getting letters. And let me just say, side note, I love when books have like letter writing or like pen pal situation, secret admirer, text conversation. That's like my bread and butter. I love it. I love it. So when that was introduced, I was like, oh my God, yes. Please give me more. Give me more. So she starts getting these mysterious letters, and they're all signed by a nickname that she gives him, that he overhears. And it's your demon of music, right? Now, like I said, he travels the tunnels. One of the tunnels leads directly to the mirror in her bedroom, in her dorm room. So he just sits there and watches her. Like at first, before they meet face to face, he's such a gentleman. He like turns away when she's changing clothes and such a gentleman. I mean, come on. What's not to like? So she starts getting the letters, and within the letters are sheet music where he's written like songs, music for her. And then she takes that music and she writes lyrics to go with it. And they're both equally captivated with each other. But she thinks that she doesn't know if what she's experiencing is real or if she's just made this all up in a manic episode. Am I really getting these letters or am I going crazy? Right? So eventually she realizes that she puts two and two together. So there's Soul, and then there's this mysterious entity called the Phantom of the French Quarter. And he's the one that exacts all the punishment to people who deserve it, like against the Bordeaux. She puts two and two together that the Phantom of the French Quarter is Soul. And when that happens, she's so surprised that she has a panic attack. It happens on stage in front of everyone. She has a full-blown manic, panic. She runs to her dorm room, which is obviously located in the same building as the opera house. And she takes too much of her medication. She can't, her regular pills have gone missing. Who took them? We don't know until the end. But her regular pills have gone missing, so she's having to revert to a prescription that she was on before she got regulated. So she literally, in her panic, she just shoves 20 pills in her mouth. And essentially she ODs. And he has to come out from behind the mirror to save her life. He takes her down into the tunnels to his apartment. He calls the family physician who knows him to come down there and check her out, make sure that she's okay, make sure she's gonna live. And then after that, she knows who he is. She still has not seen his face. She's the half face. She still has not seen the rest of him. He won't take his clothes off in front of her. When they finally eventually do the deed, he doesn't undress. She's completely naked. He's completely clothed. Okay? That in itself should be a red flag. But there you go. So they, by this time, are in essentially, they're in a relationship, because he's telling her, the only way I'm going to let you leave these tunnels in my apartment is if you promise me that you will come back. And she's like, I will come back, because she legitimately likes him. In the meantime, Rand, that piece of shit, has been dogging every step she makes. So up to the point where she has the panic attack and goes missing for an entire weekend because she's down in the tunnels, Rand is like forcing himself on her. Like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. Let's go out. Let's have dinner. Let's have drinks, whatever. Showing up at places. There's like a bar or like a club called Mask that all of the performers from the opera house attend. Like they go to like blow off steam and have drinks and do whatever. And they routinely have like masquerade parties at this club. And it makes it easy for Saul to come out and be in public when usually he does not. He doesn't like being in the light. Ben is the face of the family business. Saul is like the enforcer, the bad guy. So eventually it comes to light that they're both keeping secrets from each other. He's obviously keeping the secret of what happened to him when he was 15, who did it, why they did it, and what he looks like now. Because he's terrified that when she sees him, she'll be disgusted and she won't want anything to do with him. And she's hiding the events that took place on the night of her father's murder. But then piggybacking on top of that, he's hiding something else. He knows what happened on the night of her father's murder. Not all of it, but the tail end of it. So, essentially, they finally come to terms with each other. She finds out that he hired her best friend, Jaime. That Jaime is a shadow who was paid to befriend her. Over time, it turned into a true friendship, and he does care about her. But in the beginning, he was paid by Saul to be there for her and watch out for her, because she was, after her father's murder, she went on like manic benders. She had highs where she got herself arrested, like, you know. So when she finds that out, she goes down into the tunnels on her own to find Saul and confront him. She gets lost in the tunnels. Saul, who's like in his apartments working out, rushes down there to get her and forgets to put on his mask. She sees his face and she's not disgusted, but she's like in awe of what happened. Like, her face obviously indicates emotion, but it's not disgusted emotion, but he mistakes it for that. And they argue back and forth about like him hiring her best friend and paying him and et cetera, et cetera. And then she brings up Rand. And in his rage against Rand, he pulls his shirt off and he shows her all of the other scars that go along with his face. And she can't process, like she doesn't know how to process. So she's like, I have to go. And he's like, you can't be done with me. Like, I don't accept that. And she's like, I can't, I gotta think. I gotta be away from you. I need to think. So he's like, if you leave, then you're admitting defeat. You're saying that this is over. And she still leaves. Girl, is you crazy? Because this man saved your life. I mean, I know he lied, but don't they all? Aren't all of the anti-heroes and villains in these books, like, they're all liars? They're all hiding something. They're not great guys, but they're great guys. You know what I'm saying? So she leaves. She's miserable. He's miserable. He comes to Mask to confront her or to talk to her one last time. On the urging of Jaime, because the way she found out that Jaime was hired to be her friend was because he got beat up by somebody in a skull mask, in Saul's mask. So he assumed that because this guy had the ring, he wears like a very specific skull ring, and it's like his calling card when you have like the imprint of the, right? So he'll like, the ones he really trusts, he brands with the mark, right? So Jaime gets beat up in an alley, or like off to the side somewhere, I forget where it is. He gets beat up. He gets beat up by somebody with the mask and the ring. So he assumes it was Saul. So he's angry because he's like, I've only ever been loyal to the Bordeaux family. I've been a shadow for years. I've done whatever. He tells her all of this. It's like verbal diarrhea. He just regurgitates everything, right? She's angry. She goes looking for Saul. When she tells him, he's like, whoa, wait. I didn't beat him up. He goes looking for Jaime. They sort their shit out. He realizes one of the shadows has gone missing. And obviously they have taken, whoever it was that took him, has the mask and the ring. And they're impersonating a shadow, or they're impersonating him. So when Jaime finds out that that he didn't get beat up by Saul, he urges Saul to go talk to her one more time. Go talk to her, explain, give her another chance to settle things, and you guys can be together. So he goes to Mask on the night of a party, and he confronts her again in like a little alcove, right? And again, she turns him away. And she's doing so under the assumption that, not necessarily about the Jaime thing, but about like the feud with Rand. Rand has fed her a whole bunch of bullshit. Lies upon lies upon lies upon lies. And you're already getting the ick factor from this guy, and you believe him? You believe him? Girl, stop. So she's got like that little bug in her ear, and she can't make the decision on whether to believe him or whether to believe Saul. So she comes up and she says, we're done. She tells Rand this because Rand, who has inserted himself as her date at the party. Okay. So she tells him, yeah, I talked to Saul again. We're done. We're finished. He doesn't want anything to do with me. That's what she says. And Rand immediately goes, really? Huh, okay. And like that, ooh, good timing, like that, he flips. He lures her up to the roof of the opera house with the pretense of showing her something. Don't go to the fucking roof with a guy you don't trust, okay? This was one of the things that I was like, and this is why I say, like, I need realism. I need a sense of realism in my novels. And honestly, if this is the only thing, that and the pronunciation of certain words by the narrator, if this is all I had to complain about, it's a damn good book. But she goes up to the roof with him, and he essentially spills his guts. Because don't villains do that? Like, they think that they're getting ready to kill you, so I might as well tell you everything that I've done wrong. Typical man villain, right? Man villain behavior. So he tells her, oh, I've done this and I did that and I framed this person and blah, 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, I stole your pills when you couldn't find your medication in the beginning. I took those in the hopes of drawing the Phantom out because I wanted to kill him. But it didn't work out because you took these other pills and you OD'd and then whatever. So he then proceeds to tell her that he's going to throw her off the roof and make it appear as if she killed herself in a manic episode. At the last minute, she's saved by Saul's like second in command, which is a woman shadow by the name of Sabina. And if I'm not mistaken, she's a lesbian, I think. Because at one point it references her being in a relationship with a female cop who works for the Shadowlands. So even though she's like loyal to the core, and this female cop on the Shadowlands side is feeding them information, which is a big no-no. But if I'm not mistaken, that's the case. So that's who saves her on the roof and like debilitates Rand so that him and Soul can duke it out. So after she gets saved by Sabina, Sabina tells her, go down to the tunnels and find Soul. She does. She goes into the tunnels, she finds him. He turns on the lights so she can see, because obviously he has cameras down there. And she essentially finds him and begs his forgiveness. And I love, like you always see in romance novels, you see the male, because he's usually the one that fucked up, let's be honest. You expect a certain amount of groveling from the main male character. But I like it when the female is the one that has to grovel. I don't know why. I just do. It's like, hey, bitch, you did a lot of dumb stuff. It's time to atone for what you've done. You've wronged my manses, okay? Fix it. That's how I feel. So she begs his forgiveness, and then they have sex. He literally tells her, beg for it. I'm quoting. And I know I'm quoting because I remember this vividly. She is like, I'm apologizing. Please accept my apology. And he says, beg for it. And she's confused. And she's like, beg for what? And he says, my forgiveness. Sir, you ain't gotta tell me twice. Beg for... like I said before, having read so many romance novels in my day, like I'm so much more plot driven and dialogue driven now than I used to be. I used to be all about the smut. And now I care so little about the smut. Like, yes, I want it to be in there. Don't fucking give me a romance novel without smut. But I want the story. I want the love story, right? So in this case, like usually when it comes down to the sex scenes, half the time I skim through them because I'm like, been there, done that. I've read that. That's not new, right? It's like the whole good girl thing. I hate it. I hate it when the main male character tells the main female character, good girl. I hate it. It's so it's so played out. Anyway. So when there's like dirty talk involved or there's like teasing or whatever, I'm usually like, It's either so bland that I've seen 1,000 times or it's cringe sometimes. This, when he said that, it hit like a bullseye. It hit me. And I was just like, sir, yes, sir. Okay? Sir, yes, sir. Anything you say, sir. I don't do the daddy thing, but anything you say, sir. Okay? Obviously, she does beg his forgiveness. She begs for his forgiveness. And then he brands her with the ring. Like an actual brand, like fire. And I was like, oh, see, that's hot. When a guy carves into a woman's skin, I don't find it hot. Branding someone, hot. Hot. So after they have their makeup sex, in their ensuing conversation, Soul and Scarlett, he asks her, explain what happened. Like, she knows what happened to him when he was a kid, or when he was 15. He wants to know what happened the night of your father's murder. And so she has to come clean that her dad dying was her fault. She thinks it was her fault. So essentially what happened was her dad went to meet a contact, somebody who had claimed to have a gig for him to play in. They went to a bar or whatever, a lounge, and her dad's like, you stay here. I'm gonna go outside and meet this guy. I'll be back in a few. Cool. He doesn't come back. 15 minutes later, however many minutes later, she goes outside looking for him. When she gets to the alley, she sees someone and she thinks that it's him. And she's then accosted by a guy, a man, right, who is intent on sexually assaulting her. Her father was the intended target of this attack. The assassin who was sent to kill him was sent by Laurent, because her father used to, unbeknownst to her, her father used to work for Laurent's father. And he was snitching to the Bordeaux's about the Chatelain's business. Neither Ben nor Soul knew this. Only their father did. And the information died with him. So they didn't know why he was in that alley that night. But the Chatelains did. And they brought out a hitman from retirement who was famous for like killing his victims with 2 shots. Like his nickname was 2 shots. And that's the guy who was sent to kill Scarlett's father. In the meantime, he got distracted by a pretty face and essentially ended up getting himself killed. Not before killing Scarlett's dad. Scarlett, and this is the secret, the big secret, Scarlett then picked up her father's gun that she didn't even know he owned, picked up her father's gun and shot the assassin twice. 2 or 3 times, I think. And fully expected to go to prison. But then the body disappeared and it was never to be seen again. And it was because Soul had seen her in the alley and saw the aftermath of what happened, what she did. And to protect her, he took the body and got rid of it. And then gave her a scholarship because she didn't have any money and she was going to be homeless. Gave her a scholarship to the Bordeaux Academy, room and board, blah, 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 right? So that she could finish her education and so he could watch her. So all of this comes to light, right? Rand gets wounded, right? And they take him down to the dungeon. Yes, he has a dungeon. Soul has a dungeon. And he has this thing, And this is why I say he's such a fucking gentleman, because he has this thing where he lets his opponent, they literally duel. So he gives them two choices. You can either jump in the water and let the current in the tunnels wash you out to sea. Eventually, if you can hold your breath, there's a small chance of survival. And he knows there is, because he's done it himself several times. He also knows how long you have to hold your breath, and it's not doable by everybody, okay? So you have that choice, or you can fight me to the death. If you win, you get your freedom and you can leave. If you lose, you die, obviously. I will give you your choice of weapon. Here's a sword, here's a knife, here's a gun, whatever, right? Okay. So Rand gets taken to the dungeon after he's injured. Saul takes her with him down to the dungeon where Rand is. He gives Rand the same courtesy that he gives to everyone that ends up in his dungeon. You make your choice. The water or fight. And obviously Rand chooses to fight because he's a cocky, arrogant piece of shit, right? So he chooses to fight. They duke it out. And it comes to light during this process that everybody thought Rand was innocent of what went on when Laurent was in charge. But the videotapes that, because Saul got, remember the cop that I said, the traitor cop who was feeding him information from the Shadowland side? She turned over video surveillance of a bunch of tapes that Laurent had in his possession when he died. On some of those tapes is Saul's torture when he was 15. And up until this point, everybody thinks that Rand ran from the city because he didn't want to be involved in what his brother was in. He didn't want any part of the feud, right? No. He ran because he helped torture Saul. So Saul is blindfolded for most of this, like a lot of this interaction. But there were times when Rand would come in and torture him and make people think that it was Laurent doing it. So that's why he has beef with Rand. And it came up in the videos that it was Rand who did that. And so that all comes to light during this whole dueling process. So obviously, between the duel, obviously Rand loses. And he dies, which rightfully so, because you deserved it, bro. Fast forward a year later, the epilogue, and she's pregnant, and they've decided that they're going to travel the world. They're talking about making plans to travel the world because that was always something that Saul wanted to do before he was so disfigured. And then after that, he thought he'd never be able to do those things because he could never be, like, he was never comfortable in the light. And he knew no woman wanted to live with him in the dark. But she doesn't mind living with him in the dark. And she's slowly coaxing him out into the light. So it's like a good balance between the two of them. And he takes care of her when it comes to her bipolar disorder. Like, he makes sure she takes her medication. He makes sure that she gets enough sleep and her routine isn't interrupted. Like, all of these things that just melt you into a puddle, he does. Okay. And so essentially that's how the book ends. That they're making plans to travel and she's gonna have a baby. And I love it. I loved it. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, On a scale of 1 to 10, what would I rate this book? I would give this book a solid 9. Solid 9. I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. Will I be reading the other, did I like it enough to read the other books in the series? Yes. Okay. Would I recommend this book to other people? Yes. Will I recommend the series to other people? If I like the subsequent 2 books, yes. As for this book, go download this book. Why aren't more people talking about this book? It's like Mafia, but not Mafia. It has the elements of Mafia, but then like you add like an artistic slant to it that just gives it something so new and not something you've read 1,000 times over. And I think that's what got me. That's what got me. The second book in the series is called Rouge, and it's like a retelling of Moulin Rouge. So I'm really excited to read that. I do want to read that one. Now, I gave you my rating. Am I forgetting anything? Yes, I would recommend the book to people. I think that's it, right? If you like this video, if you enjoyed my review and you like my channel, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. If you would like, you can follow me on social media. I am not active. I do have a members only Facebook group and I guess what it's called now, Twitter. Although I probably will not be, I'm gonna be honest. I don't use the Twitter ever, okay? And I probably will never because I just don't like it. But I do have a Threads account. I do have an Instagram that I'm very active on. So if you want to follow me on social media, go follow me on Instagram. I will link them all in the description box below, and I'll put a little thing here on the screen for you guys to see. And yeah, I think my next video will not be a book review, but it will be the beginning of a new segment on the channel, which will discuss weekly tea and drama within the book community. So, because I'm very good at raging, I don't know if you've noticed, and I have strong opinions, I will have videos where I discuss what the current drama is for that week. Because it's always some new shit, isn't it? If you're on social media, if you have a Bookstagram account, if you have a Threads account, if you have a Book Talk account, there's always some shit going on. And so we're going to talk and we're going to discuss it. And I'll give you my thoughts. Not that you asked for it, but you're here. So obviously, you either want to hear my opinion or you just think I'm a funny, dumb bitch. And either one is fine with me as long as you're here. Okay? I think that's it. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Okay, now that I've gotten a sufficient amount of highlighter on the back of my book from trying to take a thumbnail, let's see if I even remember how to do this. Okay, let's see. I know, it's me, I'm back. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? I missed you. I missed you so much. Okay. Nothing's changed. It's the same. My hair looks like shit. It's fine. Okay. Let's, oh, that looks worse. Ah! You know what? It doesn't matter. None of this matters, okay? None of it. Let's just jump straight into it. My fucking battery on my remote is dying. What else is new? Okay. This is Phantom by author Greer Rivers. By this time, excuse me. When a panic attack goes horribly awry, I was getting ready to say awry, and that's not the right word there because that's wrong. That's not what she wrote. The Chatelaines were also run by 2 brothers, but mainly by one brother named, what the hell is his name? No. Where is it? Oh, Laurent. Okay. So after their parents suffered, like died in, no. Their parent, his dad, stop. Get your thoughts together. Figure out what the fuck you're gonna say. Because you're a fucking mess. Okay. So, click, 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 clickety click, 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 an hour later. Oh my God, it's been like an hour and 20 minutes. And now I see, I already knew, but this is just definitive proof as to why I stopped explaining the plot of the book and just went to reading my notes because I was making 1.5 hour long videos, 2 hour long videos versus a 30-minute video, 20-minute video, right? Will we go back to the old style? I don't know, maybe. I'm currently listening to the audiobook for Liars and Liaisons by Savar Miller. It's the last book in the Monsters and Muses series. So that will probably be the next book review we do. But I will keep you updated. Thank you so much for sticking around. I love you so much. I don't know how many bloopers there will be, but I did fuck up a couple of times, so we'll see. I'm sure there'll be something. I can't record without there being something stupid. Anyway, I love you. I'll see you later. Bye. Click.